Hello, Internet. Hello, people of the world. Um, my name is Matthew Allen. I'm doing a video series on drugs and alcohol, all aspects of it, positive and negative aspects. And this quick little video is gonna be a helping video, not a conversation. I mean, it is conversation. All my videos are open to conversation, but it's not like a food for thought or a information enlightenment video. This one is supposed to be helping people who are struggling with any type of stimulant addiction. Okay. The number one step to it, and this is for someone who's who knows someone or is close to someone struggling with the stimulant addiction, or someone who's trying to solve a stimulant addiction problem that they're having themselves. And by stimulants, this goes for cocaine, methamphetamine, crystal methamphetamine, amphetamine, caffeine, Adderall, anything that's a stimulant. If you're not sure if it's a stimulant, leave a comment. It probably is a stimulant, if you're wondering whether it is or not, and you're using it for that purpose. Okay, so big issue that I see in stimulant addiction: denial. It can plague a person. I'm not gonna condone you just for using drugs. I'm not gonna put the devil on you just for using drugs. I'm not. It's not in my personality. I don't have a problem with people who choose to use drugs themselves, as long as you don't, trespass, steal, rape. As long as you're not allowing that drug to control you in an evil way, especially affecting other people, then it's more, it's more power to you. So you have to choose your role. Are you the helper? Are you the addict? Are you the teacher? Which is, because if you're the helper, you got to decide if you're being an enabler or not. You got to decide what really help you can provide, because helping anyone with a drug addiction problem is dangerous right off the bat. And the only way that they're going to change, from my experience, is if they choose it. Drug addicts are good actors, are extremely good actors. They're going to pretend to want to change all the way up until the perfect setup is right up there for them to get back into their addiction. How do I know this? Because I've done it. I don't care about drug tests. I don't care about living sober. I'll live sober for 3 years. The minute I get lined up to where I can have and I'm not saying this is an addiction, but I've had it. I've had these addictions in the past. The minute I get it lined up to where I can go somewhere and safely use alcohol or marijuana or whatever it is I desire, when I was young, that was what I would do. So if you're a helper, if you're trying to help someone with an addiction, you need to count your own stones. You need to count your own chickens. You need to make sure that your house is in order, and you need to decide how far you're willing to go and set boundaries right there. And if that means that person gets out of your life, talks to you less, gets moved out, gets kicked out, whatever it is, that if you're being brought down by another person's addiction, you have to stick up for yourself. You have to cut it. It's just they don't care about themselves to the point they're expecting you to care, to basically hold their hand when they pee, and that's not your responsibility. It's not. So next is, if you're aware enough to where you have a problem. Maybe you have a problem with crystal meth, or maybe you have a problem with regular meth, amphetamines, or maybe you have a problem with coffee, or maybe you have a problem with Adderall. Okay, so you don't lie to yourself and say that you hate the drug. Don't lie to yourself and say, I don't enjoy it. You're hurting yourself there. You're already creating mental illness and delusion. Tell yourself, man, it's one of my favorite feelings in the world, but I do it too much. I use it to the point where, and we'll get to this, be honest though. I love feeling high off marijuana. It's one of my favorite feelings. I thank God for it. Okay? Don't lie to yourself and say, oh, it's just I have to do it, or it's my go-to, or it's my motivator. No. I enjoy it. I use it. It's not the same as abusing it. It's not the same as letting it be your number one priority in life. Because your number one priority in life should be God, which is love, which is life, or however you want to view it. But that should be your number one priority. You can't put money in your gas tank. You have to put gasoline. And so at least you're at a point to where you can say, I'm abusing this. Maybe it's causing you to not function properly. Maybe it's causing you to steal. Maybe it's causing you to fight with your family. Maybe it's affecting your job performance. Whatever it is, you've realized maybe it just makes you mentally unsound. Maybe it's affecting your sanity. Maybe stimulants are dangerous. If you abuse stimulants, it can put you on frequencies with demonic forces and visual hallucinations that could be there in the spiritual world. They can be very scary when abused, because your brain is not designed to work that hard and go that long. Just like a car starts having issues when you run it that long and that hard. And so if you're at that point where it's like, okay, I need to figure something out because I'm losing any type of sanity or something to hold on to, you have to think of it this way. Your brain is like a room, right? And naturally, God has put lights in this room. And you're sitting in this room with your ears and with your eyes, and there's lights in this room. And when we do a stimulant, no matter what's in that room, whether it's other people or our job or it's our bedroom or it's movies or sleeping or tweaking or whatever it is that we put into this, and I don't mean tweaking in a bad way, but if you've ever abused stimulants like I have done myself before, you know what it means to tweak out. It's when you start doing stuff to the point where you're destructing it and you're trying to help it. It's like it's like rubbing paint trying to polish it. It's too much. And at which point you know you're abusing stimulants, when you're trying to clean something to the point you're damaging it. And okay, so you're in your room, you're in your mind, you're in your room, and you have lights, you have your eyes, your lights in your ears. And when you do a stimulant, it's like getting LED fluorescent bulbs and you know, electronic listening devices. And all of a sudden you're hearing and seeing all these details that you normally were not stimulated enough to see. And it's going to be exciting. You're noticing new colors over there. You're noticing new sounds over there. It's a stimulant. You're motivated to go check out this corner of the room. And everything is just so there. But if you eventually leave those lights on long enough, you become accustomed to it. Not only do you become accustomed to it, you become you become accepted and comfortable with it, which originally you were probably in a state of awe and thankfulness, hopefully thankfulness and amazement. But now it's like when you have a lot of money, you get used to it and it's not enough. Okay? So you started off with these normal bulbs. That was God's, design. And then we got these, and it's like, whoa, this is awesome. But if you don't allow, what you have to be aware of is the more and more you brighten that room up, eventually when you start to rest and stop using these drugs or come down off the drugs, that darkness is going to seem much darker than before, because you're looking for all that extra detail and all that extra noise and all that enhanced. And now you're going back into a dark spot that you kind of forgot you even had before, and you're wanting everything extra. But that dark, you have to remember the promise of sobriety. That half lit, half dark spot, it is a beautiful spot to be, because it's kind of like being comfortably numb. You're just aware enough, but not aware enough. Whereas to where you have a microscope and a 1,000 lumina LED blasting light, you're gonna see every detail and every aspect. But when you come, you be warned of that depression. That's where that depression comes from. Is when those lights go back to normal, you're wanting all that. But if you give yourself time to recover, you have to believe in the promise of sobriety. I promise, especially with stimulants. It is better, no matter how hard the withdrawal is, off of caffeine, off of meth, off of Adderall, off of whatever it is, no matter how hard the withdrawal is, it is brighter on the other side with stimulants. Stimulants may seem better right at first when you do them, but the grass is always greener with sobriety. Unless there's some serious mental illness that needs to be addressed for some, but with just normal stimulant abuse and addiction and usage, it's always brighter. You'll have freedom of thought, you'll have freedom of movement, you'll have freedom of anxiety, all these small things that you get used to that inhibit you, and just being sober off of stimulants lets you back into that freedom of dark and light, of I can and I can't, and being comfortable instead of living in this. If you can start with that aspect, you're going to be prepared for whatever your journey is. Maybe you need to learn how to balance your lights. Maybe you appreciate life with a little extra power, with a little extra stimulants. That's okay. There's so many legal stimulants out there. You can even get them prescribed from your. But if you over brighten the room, you're hurting your eyes. You're scarring. You're not scarring. You're overworking your senses and your mind to the point that when you turn down the lights, you're gonna be confused. You're gonna be over-adjusted, maladjusted, and it's gonna actually be more painful for you to get to the initial sobriety point, as opposed to not pushing it too far and it being a relief for those lights to get turned down and go back to your sobriety point. And that's really the best way to use drugs, is where you're okay with coming down and you're like, okay, I'm ready to rest. I'm ready to sleep and return to homeostasis, to point to ground zero. Where if you're so used to being and you're afraid to go down, that is an issue, no matter what drug or alcohol you're on. So we're at 13 minutes. I'm trying to stick between 10 and 15 minutes. We have the drug and alcohol disclaimer video. We have the misuse of alcohol, drugs in bars. It's the second video in the drug and alcohol series. And now this one is help with stimulants. So, yeah. Stimulants are freaking fun. They're freaking cool. But don't let them turn you into someone with a chip on their shoulder and a righteous mission, because that is not God's purpose for all of us. And it has nothing to do with your career path or with your choices, but you can enter into any job, and this is just a quick ending note, any environment with a hard on to point the finger at other people, and that's exactly that's the devil's job, is a spirit of accusation, and so be aware of that. If you do choose to use stimulants and it's fun, don't be the person with a cracky attitude, with a bad attitude, trying to step on everybody, because we all crap, we all stink, just you keep it to yourself, enjoy yourself, work harder at work, choose an extra project, clean an extra part of something. Don't use it as ammunition to attack other people. That is not why. I don't see that as God's purpose, as giving us the positive side effects of drugs and alcohol. I see that as the devil taking advantage of a tool, a nutritional tool, or a health tool, or a mind tool to further our advancement as human beings, and using it to destroy each other.